Mississippi.org. And once the $13 million project bringing theater, bowling alleys, and restaurants to Fondren is complete, then we know you're going to make a trip down to Jackson to see that. Joining us in the studio is the developers of Pix Pins, which is Jason and David. But joining us too by phone is Robert St. John himself, restaurateur and businessman from Hattiesburg, but bringing his gifts and talents to the capital city. So, hey, Robert.
Hey, Rebecca, how are you today? Thanks for having all three of us on.
Yes, and Jason and David, good afternoon to both of you.
Yeah, good afternoon.
I almost said good morning, but, it's just been a long week. So I want to get with Jason and David first, because from what I hear, Robert, they were the chicken, you were the egg that came first in this great project. So you guys, when did you first start looking at the Fondren area as maybe a place for a massive development?
Yeah, this is Jason here, and I'll start because I was part of a group that, first of all, live in Fondren and have since 2000, and the opportunities just always kind of jumped out to me and to plenty of others too, that there's just so much more that could be done there, that it really was screaming out for a 24/7 vibe feel to complement what it already had going on. So I was part of a group that bought what's affectionately known as the Fondren Strip, which is just a series of buildings on North State Street in 2008, right at that good time of a market crash and recession, and sat on it for a good while. And then David joined into my group after a few years, and then we assembled a group to purchase the Capri Theater as well, without any real great idea what we were going to do with it, but we knew we wanted to restore its kind of grandeur and develop some kind of entertainment center there. And so we've toiled around for a few years trying to figure out the right thing, but here we are.
Here we are. And for those that maybe don't know a little bit of the history with the Capri, David, give us back, how old is this building and what was it once for?
Well, it originally opened in 1940. Construction completed in 1939. Jack Cannizzaro, one of the most prominent architects of the 20th century around here, had just moved home from Chicago right after the Great Depression, and the site was operated by a guy named Van Downing, who had a gravel pit there. And I think that he just decided a movie theater would work because it's on a hill, and they built the theater on grade. So it's got one of the steeper angles among movie theaters of that era. But it operated as the Pix Theater for the first 12 years, and then it closed for a number of years and reopened as the Capri.
And it's been closed, I think, for 30 years now?
About 30 years, yeah.
And so when did Robert come in on this sort of project? Robert, when did you meet the boys?
Well, I'll tell you, I think it was about 4 years ago. I was up there. We were meeting a couple of days ago. And I think it was about 4 years ago, and I'll tell you, I've been in business here. I've been in the restaurant business for about 40 years, but in Hattiesburg, opened my first place in '87. So I've been here a long time. Get a lot of calls, probably once a month, every other month. Hey, I got a spot here in Jackson. You ought to come up and do. You got to come up, and so I dealt with about 3 decades of that. But when David and Jason called, I went up and talked to them, and it was pretty evident at the first meeting when I met them that their aim is true, and I could tell that they were so bought in to the Fondren Renaissance and wanting to stay true to what that neighborhood is becoming and wanting to do everything right and in a first-class way. Very sharp guys, both of them lawyers who've turned into developers. And, it was really, I said, now, do y'all live around here? And Jason said, I live in Fondren. And then David apologized because he didn't live in Fondren. And I thought, that's really, to be honest with you, that was the thing that hooked me. And so, we got to work planning on, I kind of came in on second base on this project. They had done a good bit of work. And so I just kind of did some conceptual things. They were, at the time, I think, debating on whether there was going to be a movie theater or a live music event. I said, no, we got to do a movie theater. The bowling alley was already there, and so we decided we would bring in food like we do here at Crescent City Grill which is very, even though we have a New Orleans name, it's very Mississippi-centric, with a lot of Gulf Coast seafood and a lot of appetizers. So the Capri will be 160, maybe 170, they told me the other day, seat theater with recliners, full bar, appetizers, a lot of killer appetizers. And then we'll have a restaurant and bar over in Highball Lanes, which is the bowling alley. 10 bowling lanes, a great party room where you can rent the whole place out, or you can rent a couple of lanes and be in this party room we're developing. It's going to be awesome. And then there's also a tiki bar called the Pearl.
Now you're talking.
Which is going to be a really cool addition to State Street. It's small, as it should be, about 28 seats, but it's going to be a really nice escape from from all the other offerings around town, and an after work place where you can really just kind of escape. But I really have enjoyed. Here's the deal. I've been in a bad marriage before, and I've been in a bad partnership before, and I'll tell you, a bad partnership is way worse than a bad marriage. And I am blessed to have these guys as my partners. I consider myself very fortunate, and I like doing business with them, and they're fun to work with. But like I said, their aim is true.
Well, there was a lot of buzz, Robert, around town about what's coming to Fondren. I mean, all the things that you mentioned, a theater, a bowling alley, new restaurants, everyone gets excited about that. But I know one of the questions you guys get asked often is, especially for those of us in central Mississippi who understand State Street, and I'll let Jason or David take this question, is where are you going to fit a 10-lane bowling alley on State Street? Because it feels like space isn't on your side, even in the Fondren area. So how are we going to make all this stuff fit?
Well, the good thing is we already have the space. You just don't realize it. The way our buildings are appointed, they're really they front State Street. They're just separated by a sidewalk. But when this property, when we purchased it, it was about 5 acres of land we purchased, most of which was raw land directly behind the buildings. And you don't see it when you drive by, but it's just a vast area that we have it's actually, we've already framed up the bowling alley. It's and there's ample room for plenty of parking. So we'll never. We hope to actually allow for neighborhood parking on our site as well, not just for our development.
So I know the Capri Theater, I mean, that's a historic building in downtown Jackson, and so much history just to our state. How much of it will stay the same? I mean, I know you're bringing all new modern technologies to your movie-going experience, but will we lose all the charm, or will there be some of the same old, go back to for the Capri Theater? As if I was there in 80 years ago when it first opened.
Yeah, not at all, and particularly not on the facades of the buildings. It's a historic tax credit renovation project, and you won't even see the new construction. It's on the backside of the strip and sort of down a hill, so it just disappears. And the interiors will have a historic look. They won't be configured exactly the same way. The Capri, more or less, will look like it has over the decades, just new inside. So it very much is a historic renovation. In fact, the strategy for the interior design has always been to make it look like it's been there forever.
Robert, I know that you have built many things from the ground up in terms of your restaurants there in the Pine Belt and beyond. Is this your first historical reconstruction, and has that been different for you?
It is, and the first restaurant I opened, and the one we actually have 2 restaurants and a bar in, was built as in a dress shop from about 1975. So that's as far back as I've gone before this project. But again, these guys, Jason and David, have been so true to the neighborhood, and I think I'm not sure before I got involved, but I always got the feeling that maybe some people were worried, about changing the vibe and the look in Fondren, and these guys, even if they wanted to do it, I don't think they would do it. I can't wait for people to see what this is going to look like from the outside and the inside. It's going to be really kind of a crown jewel in what I call the coolest neighborhood in the biggest city in the state. It is going to be a showpiece, but it stays true to the area, and anybody who would have any concern around those lines, once they see this place open, they're going to be tickled to death.
And we're going to find out when that opening is coming up next there. And hopefully you'll think about coming right here to Central Mississippi once this $13 million project, which is bringing a theater, a bowling alley, restaurants, all to the Fondren district, thanks to our friend Robert St. John from the Pine Belt area, but then also Jason and David, the developers of Pix and Pins. So that's a big number, guys. So I know y'all are going to get ready to get up and get rolling. So I kind of set the stage for when will all of this stuff be ready for us to get out and enjoy. So do you have a big day, opening day?
We do, and David will hit me under the table because I always
not an exact day.
Lead off.
It's never an exact day until it's an exact date.
I'm ever the optimist. We have a bit of a rolling schedule for being open, just the way the construction will work. But we do anticipate the buildings being kind of wrapped and in a position where we'll be have our certificates of occupancy, things like that in October, where we would be able to be. Our goal is to be open in November for. Well, really, we'd like to even the theater to be open in November. But the first thing you're going to see open is the bowling alley, the tiki bar, and then the core restaurant. The theater will follow that by probably a couple of weeks.
Is the core restaurant the Ed's Burgers of Robert St. John, or is that coming down the pipe?
The core that we refer to is the restaurant in Highball Lanes, the kitchen that will serve the bowling alley, the restaurant area, and the movie theater, and the tiki bar. Ed's is another phase altogether, but we're expecting that to get off the ground in the spring.
Robert, how many games of bowling or pins did you knock over to get inspired for the?
I'm really not that good a bowler, but I plan on practicing in off hours now that I'll be a part owner of a bowling lane. And I'm going to tell you, we need to get you this video. Werburner Allen, the architects, really, and who are the other reason I hopped into this project. I had worked with them on the Ed's Burger Joint project down here, and they're also doing this huge patio project I'm doing for El Rayo, our Tex-Mex concept. But Werburner Allen were partners in this venture, and they were the ones doing all the design and architecture work. And they are time. And I'm gonna tell you, if there's a better architecture firm in the Southeast, I don't know who they are. I've loved working with them, and that was really, other than Jason and David's enthusiasm and how they wanted to stay true to the thing. Werburner, I think, is maybe who brought me to the table, and so that was an easy sell. And then Andercorp is doing this construction work, and they are kind of completing the vision of the Werburner kind of put on paper. But we need to get you a copy. David or Jason will do this, of the video Werburner created, so where people, you can post it on your social media, Rebecca.
For sure.
And you can see it's a full movie of the exterior and what it's going to look like. So we're really proud of it.
Well, you should be. And so how many years in the making has this whole project been? I mean, and we're not even, you're talking about November 2021 and then obviously phases for the next, but it's getting so close you can almost smell the popcorn popping and the bowling pins, being pushed down. So, but how far, I mean, for you guys, especially David and Jason, I mean, how long has this sort of been on your mind? Like, how long has this been in motion?
Well, I think we started in 2000, really right after we bought the Capri in 2012 to kind of consider how we could do movies. We looked at a few options of a grand multiplex on our site and kind of went down that road for a little while, ultimately decided it was not a good fit for what we wanted for the site or what the people in the community would even have wanted. So we morphed that into what we're looking at now, which is really something we've seen emerge in other cities that we've visited, that it's got this future of entertainment, is that these entertainment complexes where it's a social interaction. It's not just movies, not just bowling, but it's built around everybody hanging out and enjoying good food and some good drinks and each other. And I would say that concept really became the shift for our attention in about 2017. And we decided it was do or die for that.
So this has been a marathon. This has not been a sprint, although you're wanting to sprint to the end as quickly as possible. But you shouldn't do that, because that's when things start to fall apart. So how do you keep the momentum? I mean, how do you keep yourselves encouraged? I'm sure there's notes that are coming every month that help do that. But I mean, how do you keep focused on the end goal, especially when you had a whole year lost thanks to a pandemic? I'm sure that was a lot of curveballs. And then Mother Nature isn't ever nice to construction sites. So how do you guys just keep your morales up about this?
That's a good question. I mean, it starts every day, really, and we definitely have had a lot of stops and starts in this project. We've had a lot of different concepts, talked to lots of people that we thought were going to make great partners who didn't end up on the final team. But thank goodness we didn't get open before the pandemic started, or right when the pandemic started, because we'd be talking to you about how to save the enterprise right now, instead of being excited about it opening right when everyone's ready to get back out. So it's just it's just one of those things. It takes a lot of optimism, and Jason has got a full measure more of that than I do. But I've been the member of the team that's more about risk management and making sure that the option we've chosen is the right one. But it's just it's been difficult to take a building that has been empty for 30 years and figure out the best model for it. But we've been very fortunate with lots of partners in the community, and as Robert said, people have come before us in Fondren and built the foundation for something of this magnitude. And so we're indebted to them. There's been a lot of luck involved, too. We encountered a great movie theater consultant who actually started his career at the Capri.
That's cool.
Way back when, yeah. So a lot of coincidences and just Jackson coming together, wanting to see this happen, and everybody sort of rooting us on along the way.
And I want to also add to that, in addition to us being the ones who get seen a lot with Robert, and we have just a couple of amazing partners in this who have really put everything on the line to help us financially push this forward, and we would be somewhat lost if we hadn't had them then deciding, pandemic or not, we're moving forward.
So, and moving forward, too, I think is exciting, because you're thinking about moving forward to the fact that Jackson will get a theater again for the last 30 years. I don't know if Jackson has had a theater. I know that's super exciting, but it is going to be state-of-the-art, but one screen. Mm-hmm. How do you choose the one movie that will be played at a time? Do you just let Robert pull it out of a bucket?
Well, Robert is a movie buff, kind of on a level that neither of us are. But you have a great consultant. Basically, that's the short answer. We're not trying to do this on our own, and that was the advice we got from everyone when we started studying the movie theater model. So we feel like we're in good shape there.
Well, if Robert has anything to say about it, I know a little bit about him. It won't be anything with clowns. Is that right, Robert?
No clowns. Yeah, absolutely. And if we can do without snakes, that would be nice, too. But let me add that, we'll be doing first run and classics. And we'll have classics on occasion, but there are going to be a lot of other uses. There's a stage in there. It's a 40-foot screen. It's a huge, big screen, and like David mentioned at the first of this interview, it's on a natural grade, which they don't do anymore. They just build up with plywood, a raised seating area. But this is on a natural grade. It's a 40-foot screen that's retractable. There's a stage in there, so we can have presentations. We can have corporations in there. We're going to have some entertainment. A lot of different possibilities that we're going to do. So it's going to be Jackson's only movie screen, but it's going to be so much more.
It sounds like it's going to be a destination for those, no matter where you're listening to Good Things, to start rethinking about putting Jackson on your to-do list to come through and visit, and even if you're going through, to stop and sort of see and support the new builds and the things that are going on. But Robert, I can't imagine back in 80 years ago that they had room to make appetizers along with their popcorn and their 5-cent pickles there in their movie theater. So was it difficult to think about what you would add to that menu? you please bring back the 5-cent pickle because I think.
Well, I'll tell you, we do a killer job on fried pickles, but those will be at Ed's. But I mean, it'll be things like crab meat wontons. We'll do some really cool nachos, but things you have to take into consideration. Things you can eat easily on a side tray in a theater seat.
Well,
but I promise you, it'll be the best movie theater food in the state of Mississippi. And before we get off, I want to say, and David touched on it, but as a restaurateur, as part of this project, I realize we're coming in on third base here, and the people who have gone before, Derek Emerson, Jeff Good up there, Bill Latham at Babalu, and the Pig and Pint guys, all of those restaurants, came in when it was a much different neighborhood and a lot tougher place to do business. And so we want them to know, our partnership group certainly wants them to know we plan to be good neighbors with them, and we appreciate kind of everything they've done to this point.
When we're